Hello guys, hello. This is my very first video. I am the opinionated Gooner. I've got a very special guest. He's on TalkSport, BT Sport, ESPN. He is the French expert, Julien Laurens. How are you doing?
Hello, Ray. Hi. Thank you for having me, man.
Yes, indeed. I hope you had a good New Year. I hope you got up to much if you could, you know.
I tried, I
Yes.
tried. It's hard for everyone, but
It
at least football keeps us going. So that's good.
Indeed. Yeah, obviously we're going to be covering some Arsenal transfer news today. We're going to start off with the man of the hour, which is Mesut Ozil. He did have a Twitter Q&A yesterday. He did explain that if he does go to another club, it will be Turkey, somewhere in Turkey, or it will be somewhere in the United States. So could you just explain what's happening with Ozil at the moment? Is he quite close to moving in January, or would it be in the summer?
Yeah, I certainly think that there's two clubs, Fenerbahce, which is his club in Turkey. I think he said it himself. There would be no other clubs that, if he was going to play in Turkey, that he could play for.
Yes.
Uh, and then in MLS, I think there would probably be a few franchises interested. DC United, right now, I think are the ones that are really talking to his agent because they've got a DP position in the squad, which is those three players who are paid the most outside of the salary cap. And because of the money he's earning, he can only play as a DP in MLS. Will it happen this month or in the summer? I think it's still maybe a bit early to say.
Yeah.
I think he wants to play, so the sooner for him he goes somewhere, I guess the better. For Arsenal, you would obviously save the money that you're paying him right now when he doesn't play and hasn't played for a year. So I think if he was to move this month, I think everybody would be happy with him because he could finally play again and resume his career pretty much. And for Arsenal, then they would obviously save his wages from
Yes.
the wage bill. And I think you can move on also because I think all the talk around Meza, who is an incredible talent. That's not. No one can tell me that he's not a good player. This is not. He's a very special talent. For some reason, he hasn't worked out the last year, but he's an incredible talent. But I think at times it maybe it's been a bit disturbing that it was
Yes.
a lot of talk about Meza all the time.
Yes, don't you think that you did say that he does have a point to prove? Don't you think that he should be trying to offer himself to, no disrespect to Fenerbahce and DC United, don't you think he should be trying to force his agent to kind of offer him to bigger clubs? I feel like, you know, him going to Fenerbahce and DC United, I think it kind of sums up Ozil in a sense of he likes this easy life. I don't think he likes having pressure on him. Do you not think that he should try and at least be looking at, why can't he play at a PSG, for example, or AC Milan or Sevilla, where they've actually got really good midfielders there that can hide his weaknesses? Has there been any kind of talk in
Yeah,
that
I'm
sense?
sure. I'm sure there's bigger clubs, but I think maybe he's at a stage of his career that he wants to discover something new and something different. He played in Germany, he played in Spain, he played in England, he played in the Champions League, he won the World Cup. I think he's already achieved a lot in a way, even if again the last year hasn't worked out for him for different reasons.
Yeah,
But maybe he just thinks, I want something new, I want something different. We heard Messi saying that he wants to play in MLS too one
yeah,
day.
yeah.
So I think there's nothing wrong by wanting either to go to Turkey where this is where his family is from. This is I think something that would feel really close to his heart, and I think they would be very special for him to play in Turkey,
Yeah.
and especially for Fenerbahce. And with MLS, it's also a different lifestyle. It's a different league. It's good personally for his brand and for all of that. So I can see why right now he's more considering those two options than anything else that could be on the table, because I do believe there's other options if
Yeah.
he wants them. But I can also understand why right now MLS and Fenerbahce are the two where maybe he feels the more excited by. Maybe really that's where he wants to go.
Yeah, and also with that as well, because you kind of segued into it. How would you sum up Ozil's career at Arsenal?
I think Arsene Wenger put it really well in his book. As the Premier League is played 200 miles an hour, and Mesut Ozil doesn't go that fast for that long. However, if you put him in the right environment, he will give you those moments of brilliance. It's just about managing, and I think Arsene at times knew very well and did well how to manage him and how to put him in the right environment. He's a diamond.
Yeah.
Mesut Ozil is one of those players that, of course, at times he would frustrate you, and he would, you get a bit mad because he could do more.
Yeah.
But also, I think he's the kind of player where you have to enjoy what he does so good, and I think Arsenal fans had plenty of that with him through the years.
Yeah.
Forget about the last year, but before that, someone on Twitter the other day said, "Okay, what's your favorite Mesut moment?" And there was some incredible passes, assists, goal, everything. The vision, the left foot, all of that. And I think, of course, it could have been better. I guess it could have been worse. I don't know. But everything can always be better for everyone. Yeah. Even the top one. So I think Arsenal fans should remember Mesut Ozil as these incredibly gifted players who gave us and gave them some incredible moments to enjoy and to share. And I think that's the most important. Yeah, of course, it could have been better. Of course, it could have been more consistent, more efficient. All of that, yes. But that goes for every player apart from Messi and Ronaldo.
Absolutely. What I will say is how I do agree with what you're saying, but I do disagree in the sense where I think, for me personally, I would sum up Ozil's career at Arsenal as unfortunate. I mean, he came, he really did revolutionize. I feel like that might be the wrong word, but maybe he did revolutionize, big players now coming to Arsenal. Within his first season, we did win a trophy. Those first 3 seasons that he had at Arsenal, he was magnificent. He was a really, really special player. And I think I'm going to point out maybe 3, maybe 4 aspects that went wrong with Ozil. I think indirectly, Sanchez was his problem. I say this because when Sanchez left, it was now Ozil's responsibility to be the top guy at Arsenal. I think he didn't really. I think he really lost his way in the sense of he had £350,000 he was earning. It was on his head. When he wasn't playing well, Arsenal fans as well as global fans would be saying it's a waste of money. I do believe that footballers do read the media. They do go on social media and do see these comments. And I do feel like that kind of destroyed his confidence. I will also say as well, I think Emery was another problem in Ozil's career. I think Emery wanted him to play in that high pressing. But unfortunately, Ozil didn't take it on board. Arsene Wenger, as you said, was cuddling Mesut Ozil. He never criticised any of his players. But when it came to Emery, he didn't necessarily criticise Ozil, but it was a thing of he kept saying he has to do better in order for him to get into the team. And there's a reason why Torreira was playing as a number 10 when Emery's a very smart man. He knows that is Mesut Ozil's position, but he's not doing what Emery was telling him to do. And, if we're going to go by what Arteta said, where he said, it was his decision, are there 25 players that are better than Ozil? Absolutely not. But in terms of attitude and application, you could actually argue that there probably is 25 players that are better than Ozil, And I just feel like it's just unfortunate how it's gone. And, as I was saying before, him going to Fenerbahce and DC, I do understand the moves, absolutely. But I just feel like, he's got so much more to prove, especially bearing in mind he hasn't played really within these couple of seasons, I feel like, I look at David Silva, for example, he was, at the time before Guardiola came, he was one of the best, if not the best midfielder in the Premier League. But when Guardiola came, he upped his game. When they were playing that high pressing, he adapted to that. He was working hard off the ball, and this is what Emery wanted Ozil to do. And unfortunately, it didn't work out. And I feel like it's a real shame that it's come to Ozil leaving in this way, and I feel like he's kind of actually done more harm than good in a sense of, you know, are people like Willian going to be behaving like this, you know, running their contracts down and don't want to leave when they're, you know, when they've been advised to, you know, within the summer. We all know that Ozil was probably told within the summer, you're not going to be playing. You know, he probably knew that from a long time, you know, and, you know, are we going to be going through that same problem with Aubameyang also? If Lacazette, you know, if he gets a new contract, is this how they're going to be behaving if, you know, they're not selected, you know? So it is unfortunate, I think, with Ozil. I think there was so much more to the player. There was so much more. And I think, you know, he kind of did himself a disservice. And, you know, I do look back at the times of him being in the Europa League final, trotting off, you know, him supposedly being one of the people that turned down a pay cut, you know, the Gunnosaurus lost his job, you know, he's putting himself in the limelight there by trying to help the Gun. He wasn't really helping himself towards the last few days of his career. So it is unfortunate. I think he was a really brilliant player. You know, I remember those goals that he did with, you know, the assist that he had with like Leicester, and people may laugh at this, but the Ludogorets goal was a fantastic goal.
Oh, of course,
you know, not many players can do skill like that.
Yeah,
you know, and you know he obviously had that season where, you know, he had 19 assists within the league. You know, he was arguably one of the best. Yeah, he was a great player. But it kind of ended in a shame for me. But, you know, I can only wish him the best. You know, he did provide us with great moments. And, yeah, as I said, I wish him the best. But, yeah, moving on swiftly from Ozil, because I think we've had enough of him at the moment. Runarsson. So apparently Arsenal are open to having Runarsson go out on loan. This is probably, I'm guessing, due to Matt Macy going to Hibernian. What's the story on that one?
Yeah, I just think that game against Manchester City was tough on him because he did make some mistakes. He came from France in the summer as a number two. I think he needs to improve. He needs to work hard to improve. You know, this is a big club. You go from Dijon to Arsenal, you change world.
Absolutely.
It's another planet. And maybe he wasn't ready for that. I don't know. I've never met him, so I don't know. And we know that Arsenal were quite like Raya at Brentford before, who obviously worked with the goalkeeping coach. So you know, there's a few things there. I mean, if he goes on loan and they get someone else, if he stays. But we saw, for example, that Leno played against Newcastle in the FA Cup, where usually, not always, but usually your number two plays in those domestic cup games. Maybe that's an indication.
Yes, I did feel the same way. You know, I was actually expecting Runarsson to play, but if we don't go for Raya, who else could be in the fray to come to Arsenal?
Yeah, I mean, number twos are always difficult because you saw it with Emi Martinez, where if the number two is too good, he doesn't want to be number two.
Yes.
And the number two has to be good enough to be able to play those games and, you know, and be good and be decisive and not making any mistakes. So I think for every club is difficult, and especially Leno still has a lot of good years. So it's not like if Leno was 36 and you knew he was coming towards the end of his career. So then you go and get Gigio Donnarumma, who's very young and has his own career ahead of him, you know, and you invest on that guy because he might be number two for one season max, and then he's the number one when your number one retires. A bit like the Leno Peter Cech kind of dynamic.
Yes.
It's always difficult for every club.
Yes.
And you see at Manchester United with De Gea and Henderson, and how much controversy and debate that has created, because especially when your number two starts being better than your number one, but for some reason you can't drop your number one. So I think number twos are always difficult, and I can see why Arsenal and Arteta went for Runarsson in the first place. I could see why they would think, okay, maybe we need someone else now, but I think it's a really difficult job.
Yeah, I mean, I have looked at certain players within the Premier League, for example, Romero at Manchester United, I think he would be a really good number 2. I've
But
looked
we
at
want to be another number 2 with
yeah.
maybe not many games played. Do you see what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah,
Always
yeah.
the
It's
problem.
very, very difficult. There's also Dubravka. He looked very impressive during his tenure at Newcastle.
Yeah.
I look at Guaita as well. He's a pretty decent goalkeeper at Crystal Palace.
But again, he's number 1 at Crystal Palace. He plays every
Yeah,
game. Why
yeah,
would you go and play number 2 somewhere where he will only play in the FA Cup and the League Cup unless there's an injury? That's
yeah.
that's the problem, I think. But yeah, all those names are great. But I just don't think it's easy to do as a deal when the guy who's going to come in is just going to be a number 2.
Yeah, it is going to be very difficult. I think they should keep him at least until the end of the season, you know, when options
Yeah.
are more available. I do feel like we don't want to make it a Carrier situation where we go and loan him out after he had, you know, a terrible mistake. I think that
No,
will
yeah,
do
I
him
agree.
more harm than good.
Yeah, he's a good kid as well.
Yeah, I personally think he's a good keeper. Not really at the moment, but you know, with keepers, as you know, they've got a lot more time than outfield players. So you know, he might be able to build himself up and you know
Yeah.
become a better keeper. Okay, cool. I also wanted to talk about Sabitzer actually as well. Has that interest cooled down with us?
No, I don't think so. But it can't happen this month anyway. So there's no rush or anything as long as you keep the contact open. And then if that's what Arsenal wants, if they really want him, then I think you have to be in the conversation in the summer.
Yeah,
If you haven't extended this deal by then, that's when things become interesting. I think a lot of clubs will be there in the summer.
yeah.
If he only has 1 year left on his contract and Leipzig opened the door for him to go, then I think that's where you need to be. You know, so I think Sabitzer is an incredible player. I really
Yes, I
do. With still a lot of room for improvement, so much versatility that would make a lot of teams better in the Premier League,
Absolutely.
including Arsenal and others. But again, he won't leave in January. So there's not something that you sort out now. And because he's not off contract this summer, you can't even do a deal now either. So we've seen with Leipzig, they've been very busy and probably be even more busy with Upamecano and other players this month. So I don't think that's a priority for anyone. However, I think all the clubs interested, including Arsenal, have to put themselves in the conversation for the summer when
Yes.
that's where the key will be.
Yes, and I feel like it might be very, very difficult to get Sabitzer as well because I did read that Tottenham are also interested. I can see
Yeah,
that
there's a
he
lot of
is.
clubs.
Yeah, he is. He does look like a Mourinho type player. So I am worried in that sense. You know, they'll have him and Højbjerg in the middle. You know, with Ndombele. You know, which could be a very formidable.
Yeah, I
Midfield,
agree with you.
you know, do you think he fancies coming to the Premier League? You think
Yeah, I
that would
think
suit him?
so. I think so. I mean, it always depends who else is in for him. You know, I don't know. Let's say for the sake of it, Bayern Munich, you know, are keen and they said to him, "You will play," and this and that. He might feel that Bayern is a better option. But certainly, even in terms of money, exposure, everything, I think the Premier League surely would be a very attractive proposition for him. So Spurs, I think you're right, will offer him a good project.
Yes.
I think Arteta and Arsenal can as well. I think Manchester United or Manchester City, you know, whoever, there would be a point where I think other clubs will be like, you know, this is very good, especially at the money that I think it would be available for. Because if he has only 1 year left on his contract, suddenly you're talking about pretty much a bargain for someone like him, I think. So
Exactly.
there'll
I'd
be
be
a lot of clubs queuing up, and
yes.
he will have to choose who he thinks is best.
Yes, I do hope he does choose Arsenal. I think he's a really, really good. But I think he's actually quite an unsung hero, in my opinion. I think he's a really, really good player.
Definitely.
Yeah, and I mean from one Bundesliga star to the next, Julian Brandt. He's not playing at the moment. What's the stance on Julian Brandt? What's going on there?
Yeah, I mean, we saw him coming on in the game against Leipzig at the weekend
Yeah.
because, as you said, he's not a starter anymore, at least not as regularly as he was before or that others are. Um, since he moved to Dortmund from Bayer Leverkusen, I don't think we've seen the best Julian Brandt, that's for sure.
Yes.
Maybe it's because he was not played in his best position. I still think that he could do well as a wide player, but I think in a more central role, he can have also an impact. But what's for sure is that Arsenal need creativity. So whether that creativity comes from him or from someone else this month or in the summer, I think they would need a bit of that to come to the club. So Brandt, I think Dortmund, because they have so many players in those kind of positions, might be willing to sell. But if you ask me who I choose between Sabitzer and Brandt, although they're two very different style of players and profile, I think Sabitzer right now is a better option for Arsenal than Brandt.
Yeah, I do agree, because I also agree that, he'd be best fitted out wide. But, I look at the wide players that we have now at Arsenal. I don't think it would be straightforward for him to be getting into the team, We have Saka there, we have Martinelli there. Aubameyang, I mean, well, he should be playing up front, but, we've got him there. So I think it would be really difficult, even to play as a number 10. I don't think it'll be easy to be getting rid of Smith Rowe. I think he's been magnificent for us. So I do agree. I do think that we do need more of a box-to-box midfielder to partner up with Partey. Honestly, it's really difficult for us with the midfield that we have. But yes, I'm going to move on to Daka. I don't know too much about him, but apparently he is a wonder kid. He's scored, I think, 25 goals or so. I'm not too sure. Do you just talk to us a bit more about this player from Salzburg?
Yeah, great. I mean, really good talent, like you said, who's had a breakthrough season already at Salzburg. Even if this season, for example, in the Champions League or even in the league, he hasn't always started. Koita has played there. He's been really good, but they obviously lost Haaland and Wang in recent months. But I like him. I like him because I think he has an incredible potential to start with, because he has everything, I think, to be a very complete striker, in the sense that he can play in transition, he can hold the ball up well, he can press, he can run, he can finish. It's a big step to go from the Austrian Bundesliga to the Premier League directly. And you saw what Haaland did, for example, and what usually a lot of those players who come from Salzburg do. They've got a middle step somewhere, usually in the German Bundesliga, whether that's Leipzig or another club, and then maybe go to something bigger. So I don't know if he could go straight from Salzburg to Arsenal, but certainly he looks terrific every time I've seen him play. So, we know that Arsenal were quite keen on Szoboszlai as well, that they missed out on, and those two were very good. So we see, I think Szoboszlai was ready for the next step. Is Daka ready? Again, maybe it's a little bit early, and maybe you could wait a little bit more. But I think he's got a huge talent, and there will be a point where, again, you need to address what's happening with your strikers at Arsenal, like Lacazette.
Exactly.
At some point, it's either you renew his contract, and I'm his biggest fan, so I'm all in for Lacazette. Or you let him go, or he runs out of his contract. I don't know. Then you've got Nketiah. What do you do with him? Balogun is still at the club, but there's those obviously negotiation over his contract. So you could lose Balogun. And then do you bring someone like Daka in, for example? Or it's very, very interesting.
Yeah. So you did touch on Balogun. What's going on there as well? Because apparently he does want to stay. It's more of his agent that is trying to force a move. He has been linked with Liverpool, and obviously it was very telling again that he wasn't in the FA Cup. He wasn't on the bench, so it does seem, unfortunately, again, another good talent is leaving us by the looks of it. What's going on there as well?
Yeah, I don't know him or his agent, to be fair. I haven't heard too much from the club either or anyone around it about that contract negotiation. But I just think he's very good. That's all. And I
Yeah.
think those talents, especially coming from within your club, are important too. So I hope that something can get sorted for Arsenal, because I think it'd be very good to keep him. But then if there's no agreement and he was too good, I mean, that's whether he's driving by his agent, by him, by his family, I don't know. What you can see though with young players is that the grass is not always greener in other places. Of course, he's worked for Sancho, for example. Well for him. For others, it's not always working to leave a club and to go somewhere else where maybe you were told or you were thinking that you're going to play more and you don't end up playing more, or you play but it's not working out for you. I don't know. There's many reasons. I think it's a difficult choice to make.
Yes.
If you're Balogun or if you're any players, young or not young, to stay or leave. There's obviously a lot of pros and cons for why you would stay, for why you would leave. There's plenty of argument that could make you stay and leave. Money is obviously one of it. You can talk to coaches in a club that wants to buy you and they can be very excited, and for all we know, 2 months later that coach is not there anymore, and you find a new coach who doesn't fancy you. So there's so many things, and it's really hard. So I don't want Arsenal fans or people to forget how difficult it is a decision to make. You can all say, oh, but it's easy, stay, he wants to stay. Well, no, it's not that easy, because he wants to stay, but I'm sure he wants to play as well, and not be fourth or fifth choice and just have 5 minutes there the whole season.
Yeah.
So I think it's difficult, and you just need to go where you to do the choice that you feel is best for you, which might be different than what fans want or the club wants, or I don't know, anything. But it would be a shame if he left, of course, because I think he's a very, very interesting player.
Yeah, I do agree as well. I think he has a bigger ceiling than Nketiah. I've looked at Nketiah for a while now. I don't think he's ready for this Premier League. I think he should try himself again in the Championship. But I look at Balogun and he looks the part. I saw him in the Europa League. He looks like he can be ready. But I think again, it's just with him the timing. How long is he going to wait? To be starting regularly. And yes, I do understand. It's a really, really difficult situation with him.
Yeah, it is, man. It's not easy.
Yeah, it's not an easy situation. Also, as well, I wanted to talk about Sokratis as well. He's been linked with Genoa. Apparently, there could be a deal that could be coming in the next few days with that as well.
Yeah, I think Italy was always the most likely destination for him. We saw Napoli in the summer. I think if Koulibaly had left, it probably would have been their first choice to come in. Yes. So I like Papa. I think he's good, and again, for different reasons, has not happened for him under Arteta. But I still think he has still enough talent in him to offer a club like Genoa, who's not, the greatest of clubs in Italy. But I think as long as he plays, he will be happy with that. It's a bit like Kolasinac going to Schalke.
Yeah.
And for Arsenal point of view, those players who are not playing and you're paying, they're not even in the Premier League squads.
Yeah.
The Europa League squads. You need to find a way for them to leave. So
Yeah, so I do feel sorry for Sokratis. I agree. I think when we were talking on the train about this, I like Sokratis too. I felt like he wasn't actually given a fair chance under Arteta. Maybe Arteta saw something, we haven't seen. But I've always looked at Sokratis and felt like he's always given his all. He always works hard for the team. He actually defends really well. So it really is unfortunate. But in terms of the outgoings, which is pretty much the sad part, let's talk about the returns, which could happen. So Guendouzi, what's going on there? Is he looking to come back in January if that's possible?
So I think Erta are very happy with him. He's done really well there. I mean, again, it's a bit like Lacazette, and even more for Matteo because he's a Paris-born and bred kid like me.
Yes.
So Lacazette is not from Paris, so I love him a little bit less.
Yeah.
But I've always been a huge fan of Guendouzi, huge support. I think he's an incredible talent. Yeah, of course. Not everything's not perfect because he's still so young, but I think there's something special in him. So
Absolutely.
whether he stays until the end at Alta, where he plays a lot, and I think that's good for him, for his own experience, what he's learning there, or whether he comes back and bring all that energy, all that drive forwards into the squad. I think both. But if he comes back, is to play as well. So if he wants to play, I'm sure, and he certainly does that at Hertha Berlin. And they had a tough game at the weekend, but so far I think for his own, if you look at just his own performances, he's been very good for them. So it'll be interesting to see what happens.
Yeah, I think he just needed an arm around him with that whole situation. He's kind of revived himself when he's gone to Hertha Berlin. He's scored 2 goals there already. He feels really rejuvenated, and I rate Guendouzi very highly. I think he should be in our midfield. I just feel like Arteta handled that situation kind of poorly. I think he could have actually put his arm around him. At the end of the day, he is still a young boy. I think he's like 20 years old. He doesn't really know any better. So I think we kind of missed the trick there by having him this season. You can only imagine what he would have been for us this season. We might have even been in a better position. Him and Partey in the midfield would have been great for us. In terms of another player who may come back, Torreira. That is a really strange situation that he's going on at Atletico Madrid. It does seem very likely he will be coming back. He hasn't played many games at all. What's your intake on Torreira?
Yeah, I've always liked him at Sampdoria. At Arsenal, we saw at times the talent that he had. Again, the consistency, maybe. I can hear that argument, even if it was not easy, really, I think, at that time at the club. But yeah, I'm not sure why. Simone was quite happy to have him. And only, again, I know it's a bit of a cliche, but it's true in terms of the players that Simeone likes. This is, you would think that Lucas Torreira ticks a lot of the boxes.
Yeah, exactly.
So I know he had a few, I think he had little injuries there and there. I think maybe COVID too.
Yeah.
So maybe that's why he never gathered momentum enough to be at a level where, in what is a very, very competitive positions and area of the pitch at Atletico, because if your competition is called Herrera and Koke and Saul,
there you go.
And all those players, you're like, okay, you need to be very good at training.
Yes.
To make sure you play at the weekend. So maybe it's a bit of that. Can he help Arsenal? I think, yeah, of course, if he's at his best,
yeah,
a good option for Arteta. You saw how El Neni has done well in certain games where the opposition fitted the way El Neni plays.
Exactly.
So I think, again, I think Torreira, with his running, with his press, with that sort of, how aggressive he is at times, can help you in certain games, I'm sure, if he was to come back.
Yeah, because I did see that he was linked with Fiorentina, so we're looking to bring him back, but then send him back out on loan, because I think Fiorentina were interested in him before. So I honestly, I do hope he does come back. We do have a lot of, when I think about it, I do believe we do have a lot of good midfielders out there, but we're sending them out all on loan. But I do think Torreira wasn't happy in England. I think there is a lot of truth to that. You know, whether it is a weather situation, for example, I don't know. But yeah, I do feel a bit sad that Torreira hasn't been. I thought he would really push on at Atletico Madrid and maybe come back, you know, and do something for us for the next season. But it hasn't been working out for him, and I do hope that he does get back to the form that we saw when he did come at Arsenal. But again, good luck to him. I'm gonna conclude. If is there any other players that we haven't discussed or hasn't been under the radar at Arsenal? Do you think there's any players that can come in this January, maybe?
Yeah, I think they will be looking at a creative player. As we said, we mentioned Julian Brandt. I
Yeah.
think Emi Buendia,
Yes,
Norwich,
Benji.
is
Yes.
another one who I think they really rate highly at the club, Mikel Arteta included. I don't know if a deal is possible there because Norwich, obviously, in a season where the objective is to come back up to the Premier League, and if they lose their best player, it's much harder to do.
Yes, absolutely.
The best player stays naturally. So I don't know if they will allow Buendia to go if Arsenal make a good offer, or even if Arsenal offer what Norwich want for him. But he's certainly a very, very good player. We saw last season in the Premier League where I think he created the most chances, or he was one of the players who created the most chances.
Yes.
There's certainly something special there. And in terms of creativity, it could bring something to the team. So looking at someone like him, I think could be very good for Arsenal again, if that's possible in January, or if they might have to wait for the summer.
Yeah. How much do you think Norwich would be prepared to let Buendia go if we were to try and get him in January?
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I don't know. If you look at players who moved from the Championship to the Premier League, was Maddison 30 million from?
Yes, yeah, he was from Norwich to Leicester, yeah.
But then again, Norwich can say, especially because they are in a strong position in a way in January, because they want him to stay to go back up to the Premier League. So they might say, okay, we want more money than what his value really is, because he's such a big asset for us that it would be a big thing for us to lose him. And then we would obviously have to go and get someone to replace him and try to find. They have an amazing scouting network at Norwich with a great sporting director too. So I'm sure they already have plans in the case of Buendia's departure. But if that's the case, and then maybe you'll have to pay more than if you wait for the summer. I don't know, but you would think that's probably around that mark. But he's been great for them. He's been a fantastic player. He's probably the best player in the Championship, or one of the best by far. So again, those players have a price, and in the strongest position if you go after him halfway through the season.
Yeah, and I think it will be quite difficult because Norwich do have a lot of assets. They did let go of Ben Godfrey. They still have good assets in Cantwell, Max Aarons. So they will be a hard bargain, I think. But hopefully, if we can try and get maybe one player in this January transfer window, I'll be okay. But I think the most important is getting the players you don't want at the club. Just let them go, and we can actually start again within the summer and build from there. But we can only hope as Arsenal fans. Yeah, we always
not just Arsenal fans. Every fans of every club.
Yeah, of course.
For windows. So.
Yeah, of course. The January transfer window is a very, very difficult window. It's not easy to get players in. It's most likely loan signings. But I can only hope that we can try and do something and maybe try and at least push on within the Europa League with the players that we have, or the players we might get in. But yes, Julian, it has been a wonderful pleasure for you to be on. Thank you so much for coming on. Hopefully, maybe we can try and get you on, maybe not the deadline day, but maybe the aftermath, just so that we can evaluate some of the players that have come in or gone out. But honestly, it's been a real pleasure for you to have come on. So honestly, thank you so much for coming on to my very first video.
Thank you for having me, and good luck. And this is the first of many. So
Yes, indeed. Yes, it really is. But obviously, guys, I hope you will enjoy this video eventually when it does come out. Yeah, so I will be posting that on everything. I will be creating a Twitter page, an Instagram page, and a YouTube page. I will definitely tag Mr. Julien Laurens in that. So just in case you guys have been living under a rock, if you don't know who he is. But yes, thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll be back next time.